Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of the Coffee Roaster Warm Sessions podcast. Today we are kicking off a series, one of very few, or the first.
Yeah, I think the first. Yeah.
I
don't remember. Yeah, pretty sure.
It's been a while since we've been doing this, so. But
when you said that, I thought it's been a while since we've done this, and I was like, wait, what?
No.
Like we've been doing this definitely for a while.
Yes,
that's for sure. Side note: have you listened to every single episode?
Have I listened to every single episode?
That's a trick question.
I'm the one that edits it.
I know, but that's
I listened to it about 10 times every episode.
For sure,
so.
But that's a trick question because it's like, do you then listen to it when it's like all finished?
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I do.
That's a lot of listening, dude.
Yeah, but yeah, so we're kicking off a series. This just was like an idea, that came to us not during the coffee roaster warm up. But it was
moving away from our ethos. This is like identity episode.
An identity crisis. No, this is an idea that just came to us while we were, prepping for another episode a few weeks back, and just said, man, almost felt like why haven't we done this before? Because it seems like it would be very helpful. So, but before we get into it, Sabachi, as always.
I'll be honest, we just cupped coffees, like regular fashion, folks.
Yep.
This is turning into every single, now I'm like thinking about all the other jokes. Like, this is not a coffee roaster warm-up session. This is like a...
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Coffee cupping, what would be the word? Debrief session.
Yeah, it's coffee.
Yeah, it's like we kind of turned...
Cuppings in review.
Yeah.
Cupping
anyway,
sessions.
The reason that came to mind is like, this kind of reminds me of a coffee we cupped. I'm not going to say which one, but one of them. Yeah.
The one that was sitting right here.
Yes.
Indeed.
Dude, wild. You read my mind.
Of course.
That tastes a lot like that coffee.
Yeah.
I think I have a lot of things to say about this coffee, and I'm like, I don't know if I should share them.
Right.
I mean, we can share them and not say where this coffee came from.
Right.
I don't know. What's the best way to navigate this?
I don't know. This
is the hard part.
This is a challenge.
Yeah.
This is a
Never
challenge.
had this coffee before and just decided to brew it for the first time on the pod, and that was a risky choice.
Somebody,
It was a gift.
So, it's a gift.
Yeah.
Now I'm kind of scared because multiple people have sent in some coffee gifts. And I don't want anybody to think like this is a gift that was sent in to us.
Clarity.
And then
if
you're listening to it. Yeah.
This did not come from you.
Yeah.
It came from someone who does not listen. And I know that for a fact.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Cool. I'm glad we cleared that up.
Yep.
Now this is a little easier, but yeah, this is kind of challenging because I will say it's not a terrible coffee. Mm-mm. It's not bad. It's not, it's just probably not something I would enjoy drinking regularly, but it's not bad.
It's not bad.
I can see why some people would enjoy this coffee. But not really. Yeah, not really my forte.
Mm-mm. Not at all. Same. I would agree the same. There's just it's not that it's boring. I can taste the potential in this coffee.
Yeah,
I
me
don't
too.
think it was executed really well in my opinion. So therefore I'm like,
it's got like a nice orange, like some orange, but it's it feels like it's a juicy orange, but it's
slightly
in terms
muted.
of potential, muted.
That's
100%.
exactly what my first thought. Oh,
yeah,
this coffee could be so good, but it's not as vibrant as it should be.
Yeah.
But is it my brew or
no? I
think
actually,
the brew's nice.
I think the brew, because it's pretty much spot on, makes this where I'm like, I'm not mad.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think this is terrible.
Same.
It's just not something I would choose to drink every single day. No. That's and there's a small distinction there worth making. Again, it's not bad. It's just not my preference. But I will say, this also doesn't taste. It doesn't taste like aged green.
Mm-mm.
At least not that I think. So it almost leads me to believe that there could be something in the roast that could have been just executed better, because there is some like lingering juiciness that you want more of, and it just fades a little, goes away from your palate a little too fast, a little too soon. So
a controversial question: do you think this coffee is underdeveloped?
No, I don't think it's underdeveloped because
It's not, or
because
do you think this coffee is too light? That's two different things.
No, I don't think so. Because usually what I'm looking for is there's sometimes that like an astringency that comes when it's underdeveloped.
Yeah.
That kind of dries out your mouth a little bit. I'm not getting that here.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, like there's still that orange juiciness that's coming through. That I like I said, like I want to just taste more of it. It's just not there.
Right.
And so that's where I'm like, oh no, I don't think it's not roasty. It's not overdeveloped.
Right.
It's not underdeveloped. I just think you could get to the finish line different. Yeah. That would open this coffee up.
Yeah, I agree totally.
Yeah.
That's very good. Yeah. Not bad.
So
I'm going to have to brew this coffee and like pour over or something else just to see what happens.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm actually glad that not glad and glad. It's bittersweet because I think this is important for this series. This series is all about how do you level up? How do you expand and grow in your craft? How do you not just stay stagnant? How do you not, if you're a barista, just sit around and think, okay, I've learned how to dial in.
Yeah.
I've learned how to brew coffee.
Yeah.
I guess I've hit the peak.
Yeah.
Or a roaster here, not this one, but just roasting. It's like, cool, I've roasted a few really great coffees in my life. I think I've made it.
Yep. Yeah.
And
even like a manager and you're like, everything's in tip top shape. Just everything's going. You got all your ordering in line. You just press the button, reorder. What are some things you can do to stay in the game? I think that's also an important thing is like leveling up. There's a few things that come to my mind. And I think an important part about having that draw or having that desire to level up is not necessarily, I think some people may hear this and kind of maybe get slightly offended. Like we're not talking about how to like be better in a negative way. We're talking about like, how can you grow, right? And everything that's living grows. So this is more of that, like, okay, how can you go to the next level? There's two things that come to my mind when you say level up is, I think you or your friend Josh, your previous boss or right. He used to always text the graph emoji.
Oh yeah.
Like level up.
Of course.
Dude,
great.
And he, whoa.
Hello. All right. Quick break. Hold that thought.
Dude, are you going to keep this in?
Should I? Speaking of leveling up, guys, we're leveling up here.
Production
on the podcast.
level up, dude.
We need to. I'm gonna have to watch my feet now.
I need to level up my hat game for the podcast.
I don't ever wear hats. I need my first hat for the pod. So.
Dude, I cannot see you wearing a beanie on the pod.
I can't. I don't know. Maybe someday.
Too funny,
I don't
dude.
know.
But yeah, I always remember seeing Josh text or comment on a post with the graph that's like, okay, leveling up, dude, taking it to the next level, right? That's one thing. And the other thing that comes to my mind is literally us playing like video games. Like, I don't know why I'm thinking Crash Bandicoot or Crash,
why not?
Whatever. Why not,
it's
dude?
Iconic.
It's a good game. It's a solid game.
Yes.
But like leveling up in a game, you always have to like beat the boss or conquer the boss to go to the next level. So I think inherently, when I think about leveling up, even in like career terms or as a coffee professional, generally speaking, I have to realize that there is a point of tension that's leading me to that level up. It's like you're in this place where you're self-aware of the fact that, okay, there's something else, there's another level coming, right? You're moving. It's not a stagnant thing. So there is that self-awareness that is absolutely key. And we talk about self-awareness on almost every single podcast. Like, and I'm not mad because it's important. Like you have to be self-aware no matter what you're doing, whether you're listening to the podcast and you work in coffee or 100%. You're like, I don't know, a realtor or you're a used car salesman. Like it doesn't matter. You have to be aware of yourself and where you're at. And I think in this case, ignorance is definitely not bliss. Like you have to be aware. You have to know like, okay, what do I do? Where am I heading kind of thing?
Yeah. And to take the analogy of like a game, like you have to kind of level up in order to get through the next boss, or to get through the next level, or to get through to the next challenge. And here's the thing. It's like, if you're okay with where you're at, that's fine. That takes some self-awareness to be like, cool. I'm not like, I actually get pumped when people are like, I'm okay where I'm at. Like, I like good coffee. I can appreciate good coffee. I'm not going to be out there competing. I don't need that. Like, yeah. I'm not here to pour latte art, nothing. But I can appreciate it. I'm like, hey, that's fine. But, you know, on the other hand, then you have to be fine with the fact that, hey, when you get to a boss level and somebody's just zooming by you and is just progressing from one level to another, you just can't be mad and upset because they're actually putting in the time to level up, to, you know, on their off days, work on something, read something, watch something, you know, whatever that takes to just get better. And that's really what this is all about, is just like being able to do things better. And I think, I'm trying to remember like a quote that I heard recently on a podcast that was just like, hey, like something along the lines of, hey, if you're not growing, then you're just going to be stagnant and people are going to pass you.
And the reality is, like, if you're living things grow, living things evolve, living things progress. And in that sense, like, I think this idea of leveling up is like super crucial to your well-being, no matter what you do. You know, I mean, honestly, I remember getting into coffee, and we talk about, again, our like early barista days. And I remember working at Sippers, and at the same time, I almost got a job at Bold Bean, ended up going to Sippers and working at Sippers. And I was like, man, like those Bold Bean kids, they're so badass. They're so cool. Like Paul Carr, dude, Travis, like they're badass. Like, man, I want to be like them. Like, they're people and icons in the coffee scene there that I was like, okay, I look up to people like that.
Yeah.
So I had to, in that sense, like think about, okay, like, why do I look up to these people? Why are they important to me? What is the draw? I had to unpack that. And I remember when I unpacked that, one of the first things is like, how do I rub shoulders with these people? Like, where do I run into them? And a lot of folks, if you've listened to the podcast, you've heard of this story. I'd just show up to latte art competitions, throwdowns. I would not compete because I could not pour anything. But what I did know is that every single coffee professional, every single barista, every single competitor likes a good photo of them. So my thought was, okay, the way I rub shoulders with these people is I'll get their Instagram. And the way I get their Instagram is I take a banger of a photo that makes them look freaking hot and good at what they're doing and bring value.
Look at you, dude. Bring value before it was cool.
Dude, before Gary Vee coined it, dude. I know. So that I think that's, to me, that's like, when I think about all this whole conversation, I'm thinking about like, what did I do and why did I want to do it, right? And I think it would be fun to kind of talk about these key elements of like, what does leveling up look like and where does it stem from?
That's what I was gonna ask, is what do you think is of a few, like the first important thing that would be important for people if they are wanting to level up?
Yeah, for me it was 100% curiosity.
Yeah,
like I just wanted to know. And sometimes, like, I haven't been in coffee that long, but I feel like even back in 2016, like end of 2016, there's just not a lot of content. There wasn't. I mean, Lance didn't have a YouTube channel yet.
Yeah.
You know, maybe, you know, James Hoffman was around at that point. I remember watching James. But there was just not, there was a couple podcasts, is very, like the coffee podcast. The Wild West. There was just not much.
In books.
I mean, a couple of books, not even a lot.
Yeah.
You know, so I remember just being like, okay, where do I learn this information? Who can I learn from?
Yeah.
Where do there's this curiosity and self-awareness, knowing that I just don't know enough. Like, something's not right. I'll go to another cafe, try their espresso, and be like, dang, why does this espresso taste better than mine? Like, why does this latte art look better than mine? Like, you know, so
asking those why questions is like a big deal in curiosity. I mean, curiosity
100%.
itself is the why question.
Right.
Is like, why does my roasted coffee not taste as good as Billy Joe Bob's down the street? Like, why can they achieve this in their flavor profiles and I can't?
Yeah.
And I think this can be taken in anything. Like if you're like a realtor, or if you're a salesman, if you run your own business, if you're, I don't know, a photographer, whatever it is, I think, curiosity kind of also requires you to be at least a little passionate about what you're doing.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I mean, I guess if you don't care about this, you're never gonna ask the why question.
Yeah,
because you're just gonna be okay. I'm okay with what I'm doing, and I feel that way, to be honest. In terms of some places of the coffee industry, even like
same.
To be honest, I don't work behind bar, and I see people pour some rippers, and I've competed in a few latte art events. I failed terribly almost every time, except for one time. It was at Nemesis, and I got past the first round. Sergi did it, and that was was something I was very, very proud of.
Dang.
But also caveat: the guy who was supposed to compete against me didn't show up, and so they like
So
threw some random guy in there.
Or no.
I think it was like the host or something. Yeah. I don't know, but. And as much as I would want to, at the same time, I'm like, I'm just not curious enough to be like, why and how do I level up? I think if I really would be curious enough, I could do it.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, honestly, if I got to choose between learning how to roast coffee better, taste coffee better, or steam milk and pour better, I'm probably gonna choose roasting and tasting.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine,
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, no, totally. But I think within that is once you hit that kind of tough spot, that tension of, okay, I'm curious, it naturally progresses into education. Naturally. It's like, if you're curious about something, you want to know about it. So then your next path in your leveling up journey is, what do I need to do to learn this? And I think education, I mentioned it earlier, is like nowadays, I mean, folks listening to our podcast, like a lot of them are listening because they want to learn.
100%.
They want to hear. They're connected to the industry, so they want to stay engaged in the industry. That's a big part of leveling up.
For sure.
And that's also part of education. Why are there courses at SCA, right? I mean, I went, one of the first time I hung out with Lisa Farr was that leadership course. And of course, the one I looked up to a person that I saw like, okay, this person's smart. This person has a lot to give. There's value. So I'm going to show up to a course, right? I'm going to invest my own money, invest my own time to be like, okay, I need to understand this because I'm curious, because I don't understand this.
Yeah.
So what do I need to do? I should probably go to this course. Why did I buy Jonathan Gagne's book?
Yeah.
Why? Well, because for a long time, I was a Patreon of Jonathan. I was subscribing to his blogs. I was eating that up. And I actually saw the progress of him writing that book there. And I was like, okay, I need this education. Like, I need this information because I'm curious how to make my pour overs taste better. How do I level up my pour over game, right?
Of course.
Management, same thing. Like, how many times have we listened to in different podcasts about how to run a business? So education is the next step and key to leveling up.
100%. Yeah. And like you said, like right now, there's probably more free information out there than there's ever been. And if you're listening to this podcast, if you're searching something on Google, if you're searching on YouTube and trying to find answers to how to be better, you're in a good spot.
Right.
Like that means you can be pretty confident that if you just keep going and just give it time and be patient a little bit, you're probably going to get better. Yeah. And in a year, you're probably going to be way more skilled than you are today. Yeah. Which is just a matter of just keeping on. Yeah. You know, and also like, of course, with knowledge and education, you kind of have to practice it as well. Yep. But really for a lot of things, I mean, even based off of a little bit of our last episode, but even going off of the last episode is just like, most of the time, you just might need, like the delta between where you are right now and where you want to be is most of the time you just don't know what to do. You just don't know the right things to do, and you're not doing them. That will get you to the next level or to where you want to be. And sometimes all it takes is just hearing about it, realizing it, and then of course practicing it. But for the sake of this conversation, that's really the difference. Like, you just don't know better, and you need to.
And I think that's okay. Like, there's a difference between not knowing what you don't know versus knowing that you don't know something and still not knowing and choosing not to know. Like, there's difference between, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and you need that question. You need the curiosity to lead to education, to where you're like, oh, I wasn't even asking the right questions.
Of course.
Now you reframe all of your questions, and now you're getting these answers that are taking you to the next level.
And we might say this for the roaster part of this series, but I mean, a big part of our journey over the last 4 years has literally just been like being consulted by some really well-known people in the industry, receiving their consultation, practicing it, being like, wait, this still doesn't taste where we want it to be. Going back, asking the questions, being consulted further, trying again, and being like, cool, there's incremental change. There's incremental growth. Logging that data and information, and just building and stacking these skills or these pieces of like these gold nuggets. And to be honest, I mean, like, I know I'm very biased, obviously, you guys, but I think our roasting has never been so freaking tasty. Like, literally this cupping today, that's what I told you. I was like, this is rocking. This is ripping. So
exactly. I mean,
this framework is not like just something we're just saying. This is like literally what we do.
And totally, like, riffing off of what you're talking about now, not getting too specific, but like, even in one of the coffees that was on the table that we are still in the process of dialing in, like, our dialing in process is so much better because we understand the concepts that need to be tweaked to get the coffee to where we want it to be. And that's the part that, from curiosity to education, where experimentation and this creative energy happens, that takes you to the new level, right? Because you're right. We just had a lot of good consulting. We had a lot of people that spoke. Even the narrative cupping, when we 100%. Send in coffees and get feedback for free. If you're a roasting company and you're not sending in coffees to narrative, like, what are you doing? Like, you get free feedback. So, like, even taking that information and be like, oh, we did not taste that. Why didn't we taste that? Or, man, what is in our roast that's making coffee? Stuff like that. It's provoking. And then we go into the our roastery and we start executing. We start experimenting. We start trying things. And that's in everything. Same thing with business. Like, I mean, the fact that, like, we're figuring out and moving through, like, oh, okay, some of the things we've done have resulted in these numbers. And that was great. Some of the things that we've done resulted in very bad numbers. And we're like,
100%.
Why did we do that? Where was our mind? Like, we also need to log those, because we're like, oh, okay. Should not do that again, because not just like, let's not ever do that again, but figure out the because. So there's from that stems this creative energy. And by that, I mean, like, there's this inspiration to do better next time. So then you want to encounter that boss. Like, if it's game over, like, you want to go back, hit the boss again, and be like, dude, next time I'm going to punch him right here, because that's where it hurts, and it's going to be a win.
100%. Yeah. I think that analogy of the boss, like, I think that explains a lot of what learning is like, what leveling up is like. Is literally like, you going, you trying, you're curious because you want to get to the next level. You want to figure out what you're doing wrong that is holding you back. You learn it, the knowledge aspect, and then you go back and give it another shot. And you fail and you go do it again and restart that process. And if you could just push that into repeat and literally do everything with that sense, I mean, that's, I mean, I don't know. That's it. It's just, most people oftentimes is, getting punched in the face over and over again is just no fun. It sucks. It sucks when, hearing the stories of people who have competed in barista championships for the 10th time.
Yeah.
And they're so close, so close. You know, like, most people are not willing to
do it again
and again. But that's what makes you phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah. Isaiah is a good example of that.
Yeah. That's what Isaiah I was thinking about. Yeah.
He kept going and going and going. I remember I was his timekeeper, and like, I've seen the dude compete so many years, and then to see him win is just like, it makes for a good story. You know what I mean?
100%.
Sometimes you see people win on their first time, and like, there's another friend of mine. I'm thinking of like freaking Kenji. Kenji wins throwdowns, or throwdowns, outside of throwdowns. He wins world latte art championships like nobody's business.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how'd you show up on the scene and just destroyed?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's wild. But yeah,
but at some point, that does mean though, he just put in the work somewhere else.
100%.
You know what
out
I mean?
Out of
like,
a lot of people that I follow and I'm friends with, like Kenji puts in the work. It's not just like he picked up the pitcher one day and all of a sudden it just happened. No. The guy has talent, skill, but he puts in the work.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's a good place to wrap it up.
Sick.
Give us a little overview what people should expect over the next couple weeks of podcasts.
Yeah, I think listeners should keep in mind this infrastructure that we kind of drew up, like the idea of curiosity, the idea of education, the idea of experimentation. And I think we'll take it into these different series around one about what does it mean as a barista to level up? What does it mean as a roaster to take it to the next level? And how as a manager or an owner of a coffee business or just in general, what are some steps that you can do that are pretty practical to level up? Of course, we can't cover everything because everyone's going to have different challenges, different problems to solve, which lead you to leveling up.
Yeah.
But broadly speaking, and then specifically for us, from our experience, there's a lot of these concepts that I think any barista, especially for me being a barista for so many years, I remember those journeys that can be like very practical in as a barista. If you do this will help you level up.
Yeah.
Simple latte art, dialing in espresso, stuff like that. And I think for us, especially like as roasters, like we both roasted separately. Then we came together to do some schooling, some training, and then went into running a roasting company. We had to see that progress of what are specific things within the idea of curiosity, education, and experimentation that we did to level up. And finally, of course, we're business owners. I've managed cafes. You basically managed a cafe. We run a business. Like there are certain elements that we can specifically unpack within the context of managing and owning a business that will help you take you to another level.
For sure. The hope is to make this very practical.
Yeah.
Very, like every episode, if you fall into one of those categories, for you to be able to just be like, cool, I'm walking away with something that I can practice this week.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the hope.
So, I mean, we do like to get philosophical on these things sometimes, but we're going to get very specific.
Yes. Well, that's a wrap for this episode, an introduction to this How to Level Up series on the podcast. Friends, thank you so much for listening. If you made it this far, really thank you. If you think somebody's can use this series or could find this really helpful, send this over, share this podcast with somebody. But again, thank you so much for listening. And friends, as we always say, remember, reflect what's good.